Google just admitted it. September 23rd, 2025. They actually put it in writing to Congress. The Biden administration pressured them to censor content on YouTube that didn't even violate their own policies. And you know what hits different? Last week, I tried to boost clips from our Charlie Kirk Effect episode on TikTok. You know, the one where I talked about Charlie's legacy and the global awakening happening. TikTok wouldn't let me. Community violations, they said. The same exact clips that Instagram and Facebook let me promote, TikTok blocked. No explanation, no specifics, just blocked. But here's what's really happening, and we've got the receipts. This is Faith, Freedom, and Tech.
I'm Scott Houghton.
And today we're talking about big tech's holy war on conservative voices, what Google just admitted, and why the TikTok sale that Trump just signed might actually change everything. Welcome to another Faith and Freedom episode, where we tackle the stories our regular tech episodes can't ignore. Now look, I know some of you came here for technical content. Our Tuesday episode on Kubernetes orchestration, that's live if you want pure DevSecOps goodness. But sometimes the intersection of faith, freedom, and technology demands we speak up. And what happened this week? Man, this is one of those moments. So let me lay out the facts, and I mean actual facts, not speculation. On September 23rd, Google's lawyers sent a letter to Jim Jordan and the House Judiciary Committee. After years of investigation and a subpoena, they finally admitted what we all knew but couldn't prove. Here's the direct quote from their letter. Senior Biden administration officials, including White House officials, conducted repeated and sustained outreach to Alphabet and pressed the company regarding certain user-generated content related to the COVID-19 pandemic that did not violate its policies. They went on to say this pressure was, and I'm quoting, unacceptable and wrong. Think about that for a second. The United States government was pressuring a private company to remove content that didn't even break the rules. Not illegal content, not harmful content by YouTube's own standards, just content the Biden administration didn't like. And it wasn't just YouTube. The same investigation revealed Facebook, Twitter, before it became X. All of them were getting these calls. Remember that email from January 23rd, 2021? Biden's third day in office? His COVID response team emailed Twitter at 1 a.m. asking them to remove a tweet from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about Hank Aaron's death. 1 a.m. Third day in office. That's the priority. Now here's where my personal experience comes in. Last week, after our Charlie Kirk Effect episode dropped, I tried to create some social media clips, pull quotes, key moments, the stuff you do to promote a podcast. Meta let me boost them on Instagram and Facebook. No problem. But TikTok? Different story. They wouldn't let me promote them as ads. Community violations, the rejection said. But here's the thing. They never tell you what violated their guidelines. And when I looked at which videos they did let me promote versus which ones they blocked, you know what the difference was? The ones without Bible verses went through. The ones with scripture? Blocked. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you see the pattern happening everywhere, let me tell you what else Google admitted in that letter. They said they're now offering to reinstate YouTube accounts that were permanently banned for, quote, political speech about COVID and elections. You know who that includes? Dan Bongino, banned in 2022 for COVID misinformation about masks. Sebastian Gorka, Steve Bannon. Thousands of regular people who questioned the narrative. They're admitting they went too far. They're admitting the pressure was wrong. But here's my question. Where's the accountability for the damage done? People lost their livelihoods, businesses were destroyed, voices were silenced. And now it's just, oops, our bad, you can come back. But there's another story this week that might actually give us hope. September 25th, Trump signed the TikTok deal. Oracle, Silver Lake, and other American investors are taking control of TikTok's US operations. Now, why does this matter? Because Oracle is going to oversee the algorithm. Larry Ellison's company will have visibility into how content gets promoted or suppressed. Think about what Elon did with X. Opened up the algorithm, fired 80% of the content moderation team, brought back banned accounts, and guess what? The world didn't end. In fact, community notes work better than fact checkers ever did. Could the same thing happen with TikTok? Could we see an end to shadow banning Bible verses? You know, there's a bigger pattern here. This week, we also saw the whole Jimmy Kimmel situation. Now, look, I don't agree with Kimmel on, well, pretty much anything. But when the FCC chair starts threatening ABC's broadcast licenses over a monologue, that's not right either. Jake Tapper called it the most direct infringement by the government on free speech he'd seen in his lifetime. You know what? He's got selective memory, because he wasn't saying that when conservatives were being deplatformed. But at least he's saying it now. The point is, government shouldn't be the arbiter of speech, period. Not when Biden's team was doing it to us. Not when our side does it to them. The First Amendment means something, or it means nothing. Here's what really gets me about all this. For years, we were called conspiracy theorists for saying big tech was censoring conservatives. We were told we were imagining things, that it was just the algorithm, that we were violating terms of service. And now they're admitting it in writing to Congress. But here's the spiritual dimension to this. John 8:32 says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." The truth is finally coming out. But freedom, that requires us to do something with that truth. Look, I spent years in the Navy defending this country. And one thing the military teaches you, freedom isn't free. It requires vigilance. It requires people willing to stand up and say, this isn't right. That's what Charlie Kirk did. That's what got him killed 2 weeks ago, standing for truth when it was unpopular. And now we're seeing the impact. From Google's admission to the TikTok restructuring, things are shifting. But it only happened because people spoke up. Because Jim Jordan didn't let it go. Because independent journalists kept digging. Because platforms like Rumble provided alternatives. So what do we do with this information? First, document everything. Screenshot those rejection notices. Save those, quote, community violations emails. Build the case. Second, use the alternatives. Rumble, Truth Social, X. They're not perfect, but at least they're trying. Support platforms that support free speech. Third, speak up at work. I know it's risky. Trust me, I've been doing enterprise cloud architecture for 20 years. I know what it's like to be the only conservative in the room. But silence is compliance at this point. Fourth, get involved politically. These investigations didn't happen by accident. They happened because people voted for representatives who actually represented them. And here's something else. We need to be building. You know what I'm doing? Building my consultancy with zero DEI theater, merit-based, excellence-focused, proving you can succeed without the woke nonsense. We need conservative alternatives to everything, not just social media, everything. Banking, cloud services, payment processors, the whole stack. Because here's the truth. They didn't just censor our posts. They tried to exclude us from the digital economy. And the only way to fight that is to build our own. Now I want to talk about the faith component here, because this isn't just political, it's spiritual. Ephesians 6:12 tells us, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." When they shadow ban Bible verses while promoting other content, That's spiritual warfare. When they suppress discussions of faith while amplifying secular materialism, that's not neutral. That's choosing a side. And we need to recognize that and respond accordingly. You know what gives me hope, though? The resistance is working. Google wouldn't have admitted this if they weren't feeling pressure. The TikTok deal wouldn't have happened without people demanding change. Even my little podcast. Week 2, and we're already seeing impact. People are waking up. The Charlie Kirk effect is real. That episode from last week, it resonated because people are tired of hiding. And yeah, TikTok won't let me boost clips with scripture. But you know what? The organic reach is happening anyway. Because truth has a way of spreading even when they try to suppress it. I think about my journey here. Self-taught programmer since I was 11. Hacking school networks, allegedly. Navy service on the USS Ashland. 20 years building systems for companies you'd recognize. And through it all, I kept my mouth shut about my faith, about my values. Why? Same reason you probably do. Career, contracts, not wanting to be that guy. But watching Charlie Kirk stand for truth until they literally killed him for it? Man, what's my excuse? What's yours? Here's the thing about technical people. We're trained to see patterns, to debug systems, to find root causes. And when you apply that mindset to what's happening culturally, the patterns are undeniable. It's not random that conservative content gets flagged more. It's not coincidence that Christian voices get suppressed. It's systematic. It's intentional. And now, finally, it's admitted. But here's what they didn't count on. Engineers are problem solvers. And when you tell an engineer the system is rigged, you know what they do? They build a better system. That's what's happening now. From Elon transforming X to Oracle overseeing TikTok's algorithm. From Rumble providing video alternatives to Truth Social creating uncensored spaces. We're debugging the entire internet. And let me address something. I know some of you think I'm being paranoid about the TikTok thing. Scott, maybe your content just wasn't good enough for ads. Fair enough. But explain this. The exact same clips, pixel for pixel, were approved on Instagram and Facebook. Same company now, Meta. But TikTok said no. And when the only consistent difference between approved and rejected content is the presence of scripture, that's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition. You know what Romans 8:31 says? If God is for us, who can be against us? They can shadowban us. They can demonetize us. They can make it harder. But they can't stop us. Not if we refuse to be stopped. And that's the choice we all face. Give up or push forward. Hide or stand firm. Comply or resist. Look, I'm not saying everyone needs to start a podcast or become an activist. But everyone needs to do something. Maybe it's just refusing to use pronouns in your email signature. Maybe it's speaking up in that DEI training. Maybe it's supporting businesses that share your values. Small acts of resistance add up. That's how avalanches start. One snowflake at a time, refusing to go along. And here's what's beautiful about the TikTok deal. It shows things can change. A platform that was Chinese controlled, that was harvesting American data, that was pushing who knows what agenda. It's being restructured under American control, with Oracle oversight. That's huge. That's precedent. That's proof that we can reclaim digital spaces. So here's my call to action for you this week. First, if you were banned from YouTube for misinformation, that's now admitted wasn't misinformation, apply for reinstatement. Make them face what they did. Second, document your own experiences with censorship. Build the evidence base. We need receipts for the next investigation. Third, support alternative platforms. Download Rumble. Join Truth Social. Give them a chance to compete. Fourth, speak truth in your sphere of influence. You don't need a podcast. You've got a voice. Use it. And finally, pray. Because ultimately, this is a spiritual battle. We're not just fighting for free speech. We're fighting for the ability to speak truth in a world that calls truth hate speech. We're fighting for the right to raise our kids with our values, to run our businesses by our principles, to live according to our faith. That's what faith and freedom mean. And that's why tech matters, because tech is the battlefield where this war is being fought. Next Tuesday, we're back to our regular tech deep dive, building resilient multi-cloud architecture, pure technical content for those who want it. But next Thursday, we're going to talk about what's happening with AI and faith, because there's some stuff going on with AI chatbots and religious content that you need to know about. Look, I know this episode was heavy. I know it was political. But sometimes silence is complicity. And this week, with Google's admission, with the TikTok restructuring, with everything happening, silence wasn't an option. They thought they could hide it forever. They thought we'd never find out. But truth has a way of surfacing. Even when they try to bury it under algorithms and community guidelines and fact checks, the receipts are in. The admission is documented. The truth is out. Now the question is, what are we going to do about it? This is Scott Houghton, reminding you that whether you're fighting censorship or architecting systems, whether you're standing for faith or writing code, excellence and truth still matter. They can platform us, but they can't silence us. Not anymore. Not if we refuse to shut up. Keep building. Keep believing. Keep speaking truth. Even when they call it violations. Especially then.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Freedom, and Tech. If you did enjoy this episode, or if it helped you, like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps others find us. Share this episode with someone who needs it. We're building a movement here. Find me on X at faithft_podcast or wherever else at Faith, Freedom, Tech. Check out faithfreedomtech.com for show notes and more. Keep building, keep believing, and God bless.